well, pretty much everybody's screwed now. So season 7 of Game of Thrones is now wrapped up. We are one season or a few HBO specials away from the whole series being over. As with any talks like this, there is going to be some spoilers, so this is an official spoiler alert for this video. And as we all know, the worst kinds of spoilers are Game of Thrones spoilers. You know who you are. So let's round up season 7 of Game of Thrones and talk about the future of Westeros. Let's get into it. It's always been the case with Game of Thrones that the second to last episode of the season always has the big action set pieces where everything goes down in the big battle. And the last episode is set up for the future, is characters kind of coming into new situations and new status quo for what will be going forward. And that's what happened here. So the season finale had a lot of new establishments of where characters are going to be, what they're going to be doing, and ultimately who is going to be fighting who in the last season. So for me, it wasn't really anticlimactic at all. There was a lot happening, especially at the point where everyone was sat around together and it's like, okay, you don't like you don't like her, she doesn't really care for you, and they're all kind of coming together over the cause of fighting the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead. And you think, okay, ultimately, this could go somewhere. Like, there could be this little glimmer of something going on where actually people might come together and fight together. And that kind of gets blown out of the water a little bit, predictably enough, by Cersei Lannister saying, I kind of think that a lot of people are going to betray me, so I'm probably going to betray them first. There's not a lot of people left on the Lannisters' side at this moment, so Cersei can't really be burning these bridges, but there you go, she's burning away. I think ultimately what I liked most about this season was the full development of the relationship between Daenerys Targaryen and Jon Snow. Ultimately, these two are the characters who are the set pieces of Game of Thrones. The whole series is really about them. It is the Song of Ice and Fire. And I really liked seeing their back and forth because after so many seasons of following these characters, these two finally meet and they have built up such great characteristics behind them and have all of these kingdoms and followers behind them. And you think, great, they're finally going to meet. And ultimately, they don't initially get along that well. And that's only to be expected because it's not like they have egos, but they have motives. Initially, their motives don't necessarily match up. And it takes a little bit of time for them to get there. And I liked that there was this moment of, oh, this might not actually work out in our favour as fans. There might be a little bit of conflict between these two. But seeing them progress forward and seeing that realisation on Daenerys' face when she actually realises, okay, the Night's King, the White Walkers, the Army of the Dead is all a far bigger threat to me than I thought it was going to be. And yes, there's been this whole internet thing about the passing of time in this season because it's a shorter season, so people seem to be able to get everywhere instantly. So yeah, it is a shorter season, and we all just have to realise that they're getting from place to place a lot quicker because we're not being shown these long, boring transition shots of them travelling from one place to another. We just have to assume that because we've had 6 seasons of it so far, in the 7th season, we're going to see a little bit less of them travelling. I don't really care how quickly a raven can fly from north of the wall down to Dragonstone and then get dragons flying back again. Because actually, when you think about it, the time that it would take a lake to freeze over in that time is probably the amount of time it would take a raven to fly there and dragons to fly back. So the timing kind of works out. So with that in mind, I have 3 predictions as to who could possibly end up on the Iron Throne. So firstly, my fan favourite prediction. This is the one that will most likely end up being in favour of what the fans want to see, and that's ultimately having Jon Snow and Daenerys Targaryen, or two Targaryens now, essentially, on the Iron Throne, ruling together but different parts of Westeros. Now, with the full realization and explanation that Jon Snow is Targaryen, as well as Daenerys, that could create a little bit of a conflict. So it's likely that one of them might die somehow, but ultimately the fan favorite ending is that both of them live and both of them rule over the Seven Kingdoms together, maybe splitting it, I don't know. It depends what their relationship status is at the end of the series. My second prediction for who will end up on the Iron Throne is what I like to call the bad guys always win in George R.R. Martin's world. Yes, the Night King ends up on the Iron Throne because his army is just completely unstoppable. They are what happens when an unstoppable force meets no immovable object, because the immovable object currently was the wall, and the Night King zombie dragon just blew that to shit. So I reckon there is a strong chance that the Night King ends up being victorious about this, particularly when you take into consideration that there is a fan theory that Bran Stark is the Night King, with him being the three-eyed raven, being able to see through all of the past and the present, and that weird connection that he has with the Night King, where the Night King kind of knows when he's nearby, warging into animals. So I reckon there might actually be something happening where Bran ends up becoming the Night King somehow, or at least there's a bigger connection there than what people are actually letting on to. And my third theory, which is my completely out of the left field theory as to who might end up on the Iron Throne. This originally, up until about 20 minutes from the end of this episode, was going to be Peter Baelish, Littlefinger. But Arya, kind of doing the thing, kind of took care of that for me. So my new option for my third prediction is Samwell Tarly. Yes, I reckon good old Sam Tarly. He learns more from the books than people know. He knows how to play the games, he knows how to defeat all of the enemies, and it all comes from reading books. And he's gonna sit on the Iron Throne and just kind of go, oh, well, this is nice, isn't it? But like I said, completely out of the left field, maybe Samwell does end up on the Iron Throne. Who knows? Who knows what he'll do with it? But it'd be interesting to find out. So that's my roundup of Game of Thrones Season 7. What did you think about it? Who are your predictions to be on the Iron Throne? And what do you expect to see in the final season of Game of Thrones next year? All comments are welcome in the comments section below. Let's talk nerdy. As always, if you've enjoyed what you've seen here and you want to see more in the future, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to see more. There's some fresh videos for you right here. And as always, until that point, don't forget to wrap up warm for winter.